All right, everyone. It is 4 o'clock Central Standard Time. Thank you all very much for coming to join us for the ERC dEX Market Making webinar. My name is David Akhtari. I'm CEO of ERC dEX. Joining me here is Luke Autry. He's our CTO. Let's just introduce yourself there, Luke.
Yep, I'm Luke. I'm the CTO here at ERC dEX. So I'm handling most of the technical day-to-day stuff and a lot of our developer tools and trader tools. So that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Yep. I'm here in Austin, Texas. Luke is in Raleigh, North Carolina. We're a distributed team, a team of 9 all over the country, all over the U.S. And we are looking to bring non-custodial, decentralized trading to the world. And especially, we really like the idea of making market making much more accessible to everybody. And so Luke's done an amazing job building some tooling that we're going to show you here today. We're going to talk about the program that we put together to incentivize market makers. But while we're going through this, if you have any questions or anything, please feel free to use the tools we have here in the webinar platform to ask questions. We have a Q&A section next to the chat. We've already got one poll question out there for you. We'd really like to get your input on the poll. So please do respond to that if you can. And without further ado, we're going to get the ball rolling here. So first things first, we do need to put a disclaimer here. We cannot guarantee that anyone's going to make money being a market maker. We do provide incentives, but it is entirely your risk to take on to be a market maker, to be a trader on any platform. And nothing that we're going to discuss here is going to be investment advice. We don't endorse anything. If you're looking for investment advice, we suggest that you go speak with a licensed professional for that. So now that all the formality is out of the way, let's get on to the fun stuff. So what we're going to cover today is we're going to have an overview of our program, the market maker program that we put together with all the associated incentives and responsibilities. We're going to talk through the sign-up process and what that's going to look like. Then we're going to take you through a demo of the actual toolkit that you can download and run right on your machine, and that will run an automated market making operation for you. And then we'll have some time towards the end for a question and answer period. And please, as I said before, feel free to add questions as we go along. And if we can address them while we're going through the presentation, we will. Otherwise, we'll queue them up for the end and cover them all at one time. So let's dive right in. ERC dEX, internally, we refer to our market makers in 2 large categories. The designated market maker program, which is going to be the primary focus of this webinar, and then the primary market maker program, which is predominantly comprised of large institutional traders. Within the DMM program, we break it down by 3 tiers. And we assign you to those tiers based on the size of markets that you are committing to provide on the platform. So we want to make this as accessible as possible, and we figured that a $100 starting size is pretty reasonable. That can get pretty much anybody into the program. So what you're committing to there is saying that you're going to have standing markets, meaning resting orders on the order book, 1 buy order and 1 sell order, in a grand aggregate total of $100 size value. For that, we are eliminating any maker fees, and we're offering you a 1 basis point rebate on any trades that occur for your orders. That then goes up for tier 2 to $5,000 and 2 basis points. Tier 3 is $10,000 with 3 basis points. So if you want to go above and beyond those levels, then you're going to fall more into our primary market maker category, and we will discuss directly with you what kind of an arrangement that should be. So we have a question here in the chat. What is a BPS? A BPS is a basis point, so it's 1/10 of 1%. So if you look at the trade size, sorry, 1/100th, right? Thank you for the correction, Michael. My mistake. I misspoke. Yes, 1/100th, not 1/10, 1/100th of 1%. So it's just it's straight math on the trade size. Trade volume on ERC dEX right now. There are. I'll come to that at the very end. Let's save that for the end, because there are a couple of different answers to that question. All right. So when you initially sign up for the program, you're automatically put into Tier 1, and in the portal, which we're going to show you and walk you through, you can actually apply to a higher tier, Tier 2 or 3, or if you want to go higher than Tier 3 into the PMM program, then you can do that through the portal as well. One question that we got from some of the early adopters of the program is, if I apply to a tier, does that only work within a market? So for example, if I'm in Tier 2 and that's a $5,000 commitment, is that just for, let's say, ZRX DAI, one token pair? And the answer is no. That tier can be spread across different markets for this initial period. We reserve the right to revise that in the future, but initially, at least, that's going to be the case. The time commitment that you're committing to is for 8 hours per day, 7 days a week. So we're expecting you to be streaming prices or having resting orders on the order book of your given tier size for at least 8 hours a day, 7 days a week. We are not requiring any sort of spread commitment. So if you're familiar with other market maker programs might say that you have to be within, 3 basis points of the midpoint or something like that. We're not doing that. So you can have them wherever you want, but if you want your trades being executed, you're probably going to want them closer to the midpoint than not. And then we're also not granting any market exclusivity at this point. So we're not saying, if you're a huge market maker, you get to own this one category, whereas some other markets may do that for you. So that covers the majority of the details for the program. So to get going in the program, you're going to go to portal.ercdex.com and run through the registration process. So you can see the initial sign-up form here. And we're going to walk you through this in more detail. But essentially, you're going to sign up, putting in your personal details here. Then you're going to authorize a wallet, and you're going to sign a message with that wallet so that we can cryptographically prove that you own that wallet. And that wallet will be your account for receiving fees and for receiving referral commissions if you end up referring other market makers. Then the final step will be to deploy the contract that actually manages the fees, the fee split for you. You can also upgrade tiers and grab your referral link while you're in there. So let's just take a look at a very simple example of what a round trip trade might look like. So if you are the market maker on top there, you would be using the automation toolkit that we're going to demonstrate for you, or your own algorithmic system just using our API. That system will then place an order on the ERC dEX order book, which may get syndicated out to other venues. We have a large network. Our Aqueduct Network syndicates orders to other order books. But when that order is placed, it'll be initially placed through our order book, which will recognize your wallet as being a registered wallet, and it will set your maker fee to 0. So then a taker will come along and either on ERC dEX or on one of our Aqueduct partner platforms and take that order and send it to the blockchain where it will get settled. That settlement then will trigger a fee payout, and that fee payout will get paid to your fee split contract that you've just deployed in your registration step. So I'm hoping that this makes sense to people. I'll pause here for a second and ask if anybody has any questions so far based on this slide. Okay, I don't see any questions. All right, so I'm going to, okay, one question I will answer here is the question about gas. And now Luke can talk more about how gas, what the implications are for gas specifically to market making. But the one thing I'll point out here on this slide is gas is only relevant when the blockchain is affected. And so as you can see on this slide with the arrows, as the market maker, if you're just making orders, you never touch the blockchain directly. So you don't pay the gas. It would be the taker that's paying the gas in this case. There are cases, however, when you're canceling orders where you may choose to cancel the order on the blockchain, in which case you would be paying gas. So, and Luke will cover that. We have different ways of handling that, and Luke will cover that in the demonstration. For those of you who are completely new to this space, by the way, gas is the way that you pay for Ethereum transactions. All right, so we're almost to the end here. The fee split contract, this is just a couple of details of the implementation here. But the fee split contract that receives the fees after a trade is settled holds two balances, well actually three balances. It'll be your taker fee rebate, which we actually have labeled as the partner balance in the portal screen that you'll see in a minute. It also holds our balance, part of that fee. And so one of us has to go in and actually dispense those funds from the contract. And then also what it'll do is it'll hold your referral commission, because if someone has referred you, they get paid on your fees. If you refer someone else, you get paid on their fees. So all of that gets accumulated in this fee split contract. And I said that I already said that it requires manual withdrawal. And when you apply for a tier change in the future, if you already have a balance in a fee split contract, we will have to manually pay you out through that contract and then set your new fee split. So just something to be aware of when that happens. Any questions about this stuff? All right. Well, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Luke and let him get running with the demo.
Okay, will do. But by the way, I saw a question from Joshua, just wanting familiarity with the term market makers. So just the short explanation of that is that's someone that lists resting orders on both sides of the trade, so buy and sell. So that's a simple explanation. Let me go ahead and share my screen. All right, can you guys see my screen okay? All right, so what I'm going to be going through is just getting set up on the portal and being able to create these wallets, authorize wallets, make the rebates actually active. So this is pretty simple stuff. Probably wouldn't take you more than 5 minutes to get through this part of it. First thing is, and Dave mentioned this, is going to be actually registering on the portal. So that's portal.ercdex.com. You can go, there's a registration form, and you just fill out your information. You'll get an email. You'll sign in. So pretty standard stuff. In my case, of course, I've already got a account, so I'm just going to go ahead and sign in under my account, and I'll show you what you're going to see once you do get signed in. First thing is you're going to want to authorize a wallet, and what that means is you're signing a message that proves that you have ownership of a wallet, so that when an order comes in, we know that it's you. We also know who's supposed to get the rebate. So I've already authorized a wallet, but just so you can see what happens, you can go to the Add Wallet button, and you'll need to be signed in with MetaMask. Right now, MetaMask is the only thing that we support in this part of the application. We do support Ledger and other providers in the main Relay application, but it's just MetaMask here for now, but we're going to expand that pretty soon. And so you would sign this message, and that will create the wallet. Once you've created the wallet, you're going to end up in the Market Maker Rebate section. And this is going to detect that you've authorized a wallet. It's going to be in the drop-down. And it will have the initial partner split, which is 5%, which means that you get 5% of the fees that are paid on an executed trade. Of course, we usually talk about this in terms of basis points, as we mentioned before, but here we're dealing more with a percentage of the total available amount. And you can actually do this on Kovan, which is the test net, or you can do it on mainnet. So you've got a choice. If you're just getting started and you just want to kind of kick the tires, Kovan's probably a good place to start. And for this demo, I am going to be doing it on testnet, but all of the same rules apply if you were doing this on mainnet. So I'm going to deploy a rebate, and that's going to immediately give me a MetaMask confirmation. And this is actually creating a brand new contract. You create a brand new custom smart contract specifically for your account that allows us to know kind of how to fan out the funds. So I'm going to crank up the gas here so it goes up or goes through very quickly. And this is fake Kovan money, so it's okay. And this will just take, on mainnet, you know, it's typically going to take a couple minutes depending on how you set your gas price, but it shouldn't take very long. Just one note, though, is that you do want to make sure that you actually keep the window open. So when the transaction does get mined, we can figure out what the contract address was and then map it back appropriately. So that just finished. Yep.
Luke, sorry. We've had a few people say that they can't hear anything, and at least one person saying that they can't see the presentation. So I just want to tell everybody you'll have the best experience, at least it's been our experience, that Chrome works best to be able to see this entire presentation. So if you're not using Chrome, we recommend you hop on Chrome to do that.
Okay. Yeah, sorry for anyone that can't hear. There will be a recording, which I'm sure you'll be able to see everything on, so
yeah.
Sorry about that. Okay, so at this point, actually let me check on, see if there's any questions here. Ragnu, we'll get into band mechanics once we go into the next part of the demo, for sure. That's a very important thing to understand. I think we're okay for now. Okay, so my contract has been created here. I've got a contract address. I can actually click this. It'll take me out to Etherscan. I can see the transaction and where the contract was created. I've got the address that I use here, so you can actually authorize multiple wallets. This tells me which wallet the money is actually going to. And if I have a balance, I would see that here. Of course, I just created this, so I don't have a balance yet. Then my split percentage. I've got a couple of options here, so you actually can remove the contract. So if you either want to recreate the contract under a different account, you can remove it, but you do have to distribute the funds. And you can also apply to a higher rebate tier. So if you were to sign up today and go in, you would sign up for tier 1, and that's just what we give you out of the gate. But you may want to select a different tier. So if you click apply to higher tier, you're going to get a pop-up. You can do tier 2, tier 3, or you can do a higher tier. And either way, you can just leave a message in this box, and we'll get the message, and we'll take a look at your application, and then we'll go in and approve it in the vast majority of cases. So at this point, I'm just going to stick with the tier 1 for the demo because that's all we really need to show it off. One other thing I will point you to is this referrals area. So if you go to the referrals area, you will be able to get a referral link. You can just copy it to your clipboard. And what that does for the mechanics of the referral link is if someone signs up with the referral link and then they go on to go through this process and create a rebate contract, you actually get a percentage of their rebate. So they actually get their full rebate. So the rebate really comes from us, from ERC dEX. And I believe that's 10% of the rebate. So you can imagine if you give this referral link out to one or more people and any one of those people ends up being a major market maker, you can actually get a pretty significant rebate over time. So definitely worth checking out. So that's really it for the portal portion of it. If you've gone through these steps, you're ready to go. In fact, you could even go into the main UI, and you could start creating orders here, and that would respect the rebate contract that you set up. So you don't even necessarily need to use the software to get started at a basic level, although you probably will because it's you're probably not going to want to stare at a UI for 8 hours a day, I would imagine. So next part I'm going to get into is the toolkit. So this is in the slides. There's a GitHub page on it. It's called the Automation Toolkit. And this has quite a bit of documentation on what it takes to get started with it. It explains a lot of the concepts, a lot of the initial steps. One thing I do want to call out here is that currently what's up on here is for the V1 of the market making software, which involves installing a few different dependencies and running some commands from the terminal. In the demo today, I'm going to be giving a sneak peek of V2 of the market making software, which actually runs as a desktop application, and it has a simple, one-click installer, standard installer that you can use on any platform, and you can get started that way. So a little less friction than you would have to go through right now, but this is working. Yep, it does have a desktop dashboard, so it's going to be a lot easier to get started with. We're targeting release for that.
The question was 0xV2. What the V2 he's referring to is the version 2 of this market making automation toolkit, not 0x version 2. Yep. And so this is V2 of the automation toolkit. ETA on that is probably early next week for all the platforms. So we've got it working, and you're going to see a working version of it. There's just a few sort of housekeeping things we need to do before we can release it to the public. So let's kind of get started. If you go through this documentation page, you will see a lot of the concepts, so we're just going to do more of a hands-on explanation of what's going on. One part we're not going to go through is the wallet setup. This is where you can import an existing wallet so that you don't, if you have a wallet that has funds and it's the one that you want to trade with, you would import it in this wallet setup step. So I'm going to switch over to this window on the left, and I'm actually going to, I've got this desktop app up, and you can see it's this ERC dEX icon here in the toolbar.
And the way that this works is when you, just like something like MetaMask, when you set up a wallet, it's stored securely on your disk drive and encrypted by a passphrase. So I'm going to enter the passphrase, and that's going to unlock the application. And the first kind of setup step is to actually create a market. So by default, you haven't created any markets. You haven't set up any parameters around what you want to trade and how you want to trade it. So first thing we're going to do is create a market. It is an Electron app, yes. So let's create a, I think we'll do Melon port because I know that my account has Melon tokens. And I'm going to select Melon WETH from the dropdown. And once I've selected a token pair, I've got to set some parameters on this market. So for the Melon port side, I want to select a maximum amount and a minimum amount. So I have a balance of 20 Melon tokens. I'm going to say I want to trade, we'll do 15, so it's about $600 worth. And I'm willing to let my Melon balance go as low as, let's say 5. If it goes below 5, then I want it to stop trading. That's as little as I want to have in my balance. Same deal for wrapped Ether. If you're not familiar, WETH is wrapped Ether or the Ether token. Ether can't be traded directly with other ERC20 tokens. So there is a contract that's widely used by most dApps that it's called wrapped Ether, and it's just a proxy. It just locks up your ETH so that you can trade it with other tokens. So I want to have about the same amount on both sides. So I'm going to trade up to 1 ETH worth, and I'm going to let this go down as low as 0.4 ETH. And then Ether balance, since there is some gas usage possible with this market maker bot, I want to say how low I'm willing to let that go. If for some reason I've created a configuration that's using too much gas just because I didn't set the tolerances right or I need to tweak it somehow, I want to be able to protect myself from spending too much on gas. So I have a balance of 3.9 ETH. I'm going to put that at 3.75 ETH. So yeah, I think I can just show the left side. If I can switch screens. Sorry, don't think that's going to work. Oh, maybe it will. All right, is this better? And I'm just going to respond to a question here. How did the minimum and maximum amount specified here relate to order size generated via the toolkit? This might make a little more sense after we go over the next part, but those parameters basically describe your total position for that side of the trade. So in the case of the parameters on Melon port, since that's the base token, we're really talking about the total commitment to the sell side of the trade, whereas wrapped Ether is the buy side. So, you know, I'm willing, another way of thinking about the maximum account, or sorry, the max amount is the maximum that I'm willing to have for sale at any given time is 15 Melon token. So the other option here is cancellation mode. I know someone brought up gas usage and kind of what that looks like in a decentralized market making application. You know, gas prices scale with system usage, so the higher the gas prices are currently, the more this is going to cost. there are a lot of things that you can do and a lot of things that we've built into the application that prevent cancellations from having to take place. But a lot of it has to do with how you set up the bands, which we're about to get into. The main thing to understand here is hard cancellation mode is sort of what you would expect. It does go through contract, but that won't affect the gas prices here. The contract just handles the fee rebates. Hard cancellation will be actually canceling on the blockchain, so it will remove the orders from the UI and from our platform, and it will also make it so that no one can possibly fill it, even from off the platform. Soft cancellation is free. It doesn't cost gas at all. It will securely remove it from the ERC dEX platform, but it could still technically be filled if someone had copied the order and attempted to fill it. We do sort of, I would say, protect against that by enforcing very low expiration dates on the orders that are created through this software. So the maximum expiration period on any order is set to 20 minutes. So that's the most that a single order can live. So that sort of alleviates the problem of soft canceling orders that end up living for a long time. In this case, I'm going to actually use soft cancellation mode so that it doesn't use gas. So I'm willing to take that risk. And that's all the parameters to create a market. So I'm going to go and create that. And this is going to create the market, and it gives me a bunch of details about the market, and I'll go through this. Adam says he doesn't see the downside for using soft cancellation. Yeah, I mean, this is really a 0x level thing, but someone could copy the order. They could get all the information about the order, and they could use some other software to fill that order if they had cached that in their own system. So there's just a potential for it to get filled. It's less likely. Soft canceled orders will not show up for API or scripts that are pulling from our API. So that will be removed from the API, and it will appear from the consumer standpoint to be actually canceled. The only way that you would know that it wasn't canceled would be if you attempted to fill it. So this is sort of someone could spend gas to try to fill orders that may have been soft canceled, but I don't think it's going to be a very worthwhile endeavor.
Yeah, the one point here is, and to answer Adam's question, if it's soft canceled on our UI, is it also soft canceled on other Aqueduct partners like Shark Relay? So the answer is yes, it should be. There is the possibility that they either maliciously or just out of negligence they just don't pay attention to our message saying, hey, this is now canceled, because they're holding a copy of that actual order. So technically it is valid as far as the blockchain is concerned, so it could be sent to the blockchain and filled. But we believe at this point that you're probably still pretty safe just soft canceling.
And Michael says to be able to cancel the order and actually move tokens around, you have to do a hard cancel. No, not really, because you can move tokens around. The way that 0x works is you're never actually depositing money anywhere. The wallet stays in, the token stay in your wallet. So I don't think that'll really weigh in here. Front-running policies, that's a pretty complicated topic. We may be able to circle back on that at the end. I want to keep kind of going through the UI part of this. So just top to bottom, kind of what we have in the UI here. On the left side, you're going to have a list of all your markets. So I just created a market. That's all that you can see right now. But if you have multiple, you can switch between them. And this right panel will sort of update as you select something. On the title or the control bar, I guess I'd call it up here, You can start a market, you can stop a market. What it means to start a market is that it will actually start deploying orders to match your desired positions. So if the market is stopped, it's not really doing anything. You're kind of just in configuration mode. Once you click start, it's going to actually start putting those orders out on the market. History is a pretty lightweight and useful reporting tool. There's not a lot in here because I just created this market, but typically you're just going to have lists of balances over time, so you can look at your token balances and what they were worth in terms of US dollars at the time and kind of understand what direction you're going in. So you can kind of see, did you have a good day, did you have a bad day, what's your total market position over time. We've also got logs, so you can see market logs. There's no logs in here because I haven't done anything, but this is a way of kind of understanding what's going on behind the scenes and getting some information that way. And then we have some reports. Really, we just have one report right now, which is called a cancellation report, and that just lists all the cancellations that you've done and basically why it was canceled and how much gas you spent on canceling it. So if you were doing hard cancellation mode, you'd be able to go in here and kind of analyze how much you're spending. If you're spending too much on gas, you're probably going to want to tweak your strategy a little bit. And live market, this will actually open up a version of our application so that you can see what the market really looks like. So if you click on live market, it's going to open up a window here, and you're going to get kind of a pared down version of the application. Of course, there's not any activity on here because it's testnet, but we'll get back to this once we actually start deploying some orders. And you can edit the market here with the gear icon, and you can delete the market, which you'll have to confirm to actually delete. How to estimate how much gas you may lose if you're in hard cancellation mode. You could definitely estimate a range. It's variable depending on gas prices of the day. So I would say it is something that could be estimated. For us to create a tool to estimate it, I think would be a great addition, but it's tricky because it's hard to know ahead of time kind of what the market conditions are going to be. Going down from the control bar, we've got an overview of the tokens involved, so I can see the parameters on the base and the quote token, and then Ether. And then I can see my total open position. So open would refer to how much do I actually have out there in open positions for this side of the trade. And then below that, we've really got the crux of how this application works, which is band management. And bands represent a price level for a given side of the trade. So you can create one or more bands on the sell side or the buy side. And each of those bands is going to have its own designated spread in terms of basis points. It's also going to specify how much of that band should take up your total market commitment. So I think the easiest way to understand what this does is to actually go through and create some bands, and then you'll understand better what it does. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a sell band, and I'm going to say that I want this band to exist at, let's say, 70 basis points. That's pretty high. We have market makers now that are routinely getting orders filled at that level. It may not last that way forever, but right now, the way that crypto markets are is you can go pretty high on the spread and make a decent amount of money on your trades. Tolerance basis points. So that is saying how much the price can change, and orders in this band would still be considered valid. So you can think of it as helping define a range. So if I do a tolerance basis points of 20, since I've got a midpoint spread of 70, it's almost like saying a range of 50 to 90 basis points. So it's a way of giving a band some wiggle room so that just because the price moves a little bit doesn't mean that it automatically gets canceled. So this is one of the ways that you prevent excess dApps from being used, is giving your bands some room to breathe so that they can continue to be valid. Now, obviously, if you have if you set your spread to 20 basis points, and then you also set the tolerance to 19, well, I mean, you're kind of playing with fire there, because that means that, if the price moves quickly enough, you're more likely to actually make a bad trade. So you want to give yourself some room there off of the midpoint price. But we'll stick with the originals values. We'll go 70 basis points and 20 tolerance basis points. Weight is the next thing to understand here. And weight just means how much should this band make up of my total market commitment on this side. So these are relative units, and you'll see how this plays out. Second, duration, as I mentioned, and there's an error message here that indicates as much, is it's got to be between 300 and 1200 seconds, or that's 5 to 20 minutes. So it's not possible to open orders that will live for longer than 20 minutes. And that really just reduces risk all around. If for some reason you start up the bot, but you can't be around to manage it, and the orders continue to exist, this gets us away from situations where we have long-standing orders that are, represent a risk to the trader. So in this case, I'm just going to stick to 10 minutes, 600 seconds, and I'm going to create this band. Morgan says we need to hard cancel an order if we only want it to exist below 5 minutes. If you're setting expirations of 5 minutes or less, the need to hard cancel orders, I would say, is really, really unnecessary, because the chances of the price slipping and then someone being able to fill it before it actually expires is not very good. There is a chance, but I would say it's a pretty low chance, as opposed to if it has an expiration of 20 minutes or an hour, there's a good chance the price will slip enough, and someone could reasonably fill it in that time. So, okay, one thing I will mention, you can remove a band with the X, and you can also see band-specific logs. So if you just want to see logs scoped down to this particular price level, you can go into logs and see that. Then I'm going to go ahead and make another identical band on the other side of the trade, on the buy band. We're going to do 70 basis points on the spread. We'll do same tolerance of 20, 100, 50, 600, and now I've got bands on both sides. And just to show you how the weight aspect of this works, I think it's, when you're first getting started with this, it's probably not a bad idea just to start with one band on each side, because it's just simpler to think about. But it does make a lot of sense to have multiple bands to kind of spread your risk around. So the second one, I'm going to put it 100 basis point spread. I'm going to give that 30 tolerance. And we're going to do less weight, so I actually want less on this higher band. I'm going to put it at 75. Say that we do at least 40, and same expiration. As you can see, there's another band on here, and it's less of the total. So you can think of these bars and the way that this looks is pretty much a representation, a visual representation of what the actual order book is going to look like when you deploy these orders. So it's kind of allowing you to mold your strategy in this way. This is probably enough to get started. Now that I've created these bands, I've got some indicators down here. I've got the current market price. This comes from Crypto Compare, their API, and it says the current market price of Melon Weth is 0.06790. and the approximate spread that would result from deploying these bands is 0.00095. So the reason this is useful is because you can kind of pull this up next to existing markets and shape your bands in a way that actually seems reasonable and competitive based on what's already out there, right? So if you are feeling very aggressive about your position, you may go to our market and say, hey, the spread right now is, 0.0008, but I think I'm okay with the risk of providing a spread of 0.0004. And you could kind of shift this around until it actually represents what you want. But this is good enough to get started here. I'm going to actually go ahead and start the market, and that's going to be the start button up here. And by starting the market, it means that orders are actually going to start getting created. So I can pull up my account here. I'll pull it up from the other screen so you can see what's going on. Okay, so I went over to ERC dEX, and you can see that some orders got created here. So this blue dot indicates that they're my order. It says my position here is 8 melon port, and my position here is 14 melon port.
One thing to note, by the way, is that he's on test.ercdex.com.
Yep.
That's the URL for our Covan UI.
Yep. Yep. And the interesting thing here is, if we look back at here, we saw that we had one band up here that constitutes most of the market, and then another band right above it that's a little bit less. And we can see that in the app, this is reflected. So, I've got this band right here at a price of 6856, and then I've got the smaller band right above that is a little bit less or a little bit higher of price. And in the app, I can see all the orders, and I'll also be able to see my trade history. And as these are getting filled, I'm going to get notifications in the application, and I'll be able to go back into the past orders and see which ones got canceled. Now, a lot of this we're thinking about integrating into the automation toolkit itself, but obviously we've done a lot of work here in the main Relay app, and there's a lot of information here. So it's a good place to go to get information about the market as a whole and kind of how you're operating within that market. And right now, this automation toolkit is really just kind of the command center for actually getting those orders deployed and maintaining a position. And we can also see, these orders are out here, so that's a done deal. They expire. We can see. I opened them 2 minutes ago. They expired 8 minutes ago. But I want to go ahead and stop this market. I don't want it to keep it from or keep it going. So
I bought one of your tokens.
Taking my melon port tokens, huh? I'm going to go ahead and stop the market here. And when I stop the market, it is going to give me some options here. And it tells me that there's live orders on the market. And I can do two things. I can have them soft canceled, which would mean, like we talked about, they'll remove them from the UI, but they'll continue to technically be valid until they expire, which is happening in 5 minutes, something like that. Or I can cancel them, kind of hard cancel them immediately, which will incur gas costs. So I'm just going to soft cancel the orders. And if we switch back over to the app here, we'll see that I got some notifications that all 3 of these orders were canceled, and the order book and all of that update. So that's kind of the end-to-end experience to expect. You're using this to shape the market, and then you're actually behind the scenes. What's happening here is it's doing a bunch of things. It's signing secure messages, it's sending transactions, it's monitoring the state of the orders and creating new orders when it needs to. So there's a lot that happens in that core engine that's meant to help you along in the process. The one thing I will say is that this dashboard is not going to fit everyone's needs. So there There are some folks that are going to want to do much more sophisticated or custom strategies. And the way that this has been built is on top of a kind of a scripting platform that will allow folks to write their own scripts in their language of choice. We're going to be publishing some SDKs in different languages. So that's something to look out for. I think we'll probably do another webinar on it, maybe just a technical deep dive on scripting and automated trading. So we definitely like to hear from you if that's something that sounds appealing, or if you kind of want to understand what a more technical approach would look like. Okay, yeah, I figured it would, just because, you know, at some point to really do this stuff right, you need to be fetching information from other sources, right? You know, you can create your own risk models, and you could either create bands like this, or you can manage the orders yourself. You may decide that you don't really like our market making engine, and you just want to create orders, fill orders, cancel orders. So we're thinking about all of that, and it's going to be coming soon.
Well, we should point out that we do have some of that already. Like Ragnu is asking for a Node.js implementation. We actually already have an Aqueduct package out there that allows you to do the basics of creating orders, pulling the order book, all of that, but it doesn't have the market making engine tied into it.
Yeah. Yeah, so, the Node JavaScript TypeScript SDK is the only SDK we have right now. But if you're comfortable with that, then yeah, you could npm install Aqueduct, and you could get started with that. There's quite a bit of documentation. I'll just pull it over here so you can look at it. The GitHub is ERC dEX /Aqueduct. And this is going to go into detail on how you do things like opening orders, filling orders, market orders. Basically everything you can do in the UI, you can do with Aqueduct. So, Ragnar, that's probably a good thing for you to take a look at. All right. Well,
Luke, did you show them the portal at all? I don't remember if we went through that.
The Aqueduct portal?
Yeah,
Yeah.
We wallet and all that.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, we went through that.
Great.
Okay, well, let's, we've only got about 8 minutes left, so I think
this is a good time to open it up for questions. Feel free to raise your hand if you have any questions. Or just drop one in the chat if you like.
One thing I guess I'll just open up a question of my own for the audience is, if you are a developer, programmer, scripter, and you're interested in SDKs, but you don't like JavaScript, what language would you want to see SDKs in? Because we have an idea of what we want to offer. I think probably Java, Python, C++.
Lindsay, who is also on here, maybe you could drop a poll in there real quick for that.
Yeah, that'd be good.
And if everybody responded to that, we'd appreciate it. Steve has a question, and Morgan has a question. Steve, broadly speaking, the market making strategy is a strategy of capturing the bid-ask spread, having standing orders on resting on the book for a buy and a sell. Right, so if you're selling low and buying high, you're capturing that bid-ask spread. That is the general gist of a market-making strategy. Some of the risks associated with that is that can work against you in times of very high volatility, when the market continuously moves against one side of your orders. So there's a whole lot to this. And we are not market-making experts in the strategy, so we would probably defer to those that are. And we've actually talked about possibly inviting some of our institutional partners on to provide some more strategic type guidance as far as webinar goes. So that may be happening sometime too. Luke, do you want to answer Morgan's question about the safekeeping?
Yeah. So Morgan, with MetaMask is just a particular wallet implementation. The way that MetaMask works, and actually the way that our program here works, is your private key is encrypted with a passphrase. So there's two ways I would say to secure it. One is you should use a very secure passphrase, something that would be very difficult for anyone to guess. Because if someone can guess the passphrase, they can basically get access to your funds. So you can use things, I mean, there's a ton of tools out there, but things like LastPass can generate, huge passwords, 64, 128 character passwords with all different symbols. And there aren't computers good enough to hack that. So the other part is, the more vulnerable part of any software system is the social engineering aspect. So, or just getting access to your physical computer, right? So I would say if you're not using MetaMask or you're not using, this program, you should lock the wallet, or in our case, you would just close the program. In the case of MetaMask, you should use the lock functionality there to make sure that even if someone did get access to your workstation, they wouldn't be able to do anything.
Luke, can you cover what wallets are supported here for the market making tool?
Well, you can import a wallet from anywhere. So right now, you can't actually create wallets in the market making tool. You just import it from elsewhere. So you can create that wallet anywhere, but ultimately you'll have to import it into our system to use it. I would say it would make sense to create a new wallet using MetaMask or Parity or anything, and import that and have a designated wallet for your market making operation. I don't think it's a very good idea. If you have a wallet that has all your assets, I would say you should probably create a wallet just for your market making operation.
So Jordan asks, given that this is built with 0x, could my orders potentially be shared with other DEXs? Does this tool essentially allow me to make markets in the whole decentralized space, not just ERC dEX? It's a great question. Thank you for asking. The short answer is yes, kind of. That is because there are two main strategies that dominate the 0x space. There's the open order book strategy, which we use, which allows us to participate in global shared liquidity. And then there's a closed order book strategy, which some of our competitors use, that doesn't essentially allow them to participate in this global shared liquidity pool. Essentially, for them, every time a user makes an order on their platform, that user, whether they know it or not, is making the platform the counterparty to that trade. So because of that, the platform is always the counterparty. They cannot participate in global shared liquidity. So those relayers cannot participate. However, there are a number of relayers who have joined the Aqueduct Network, Amadeus Relay, Shark Relay, Bamboo Relay. There's a bunch of them that are coming online, and as they get spun up into the Aqueduct Network, which is the liquidity network that we've built behind ERC dEX, your orders will end up showing up on their books, and you will end up making markets on those platforms as well. That's our whole goal, is to make this global shared liquidity pool a reality. And yeah, we think it's going to be a really powerful tool. And it gives you, as a market maker, a lot of exposure to audiences that we, as one venue, ERC dEX, could not bring you. So your orders may be getting filled on Shark Relay or Bamboo Relay in Australia, or Dextroid in Spain. And for you, it really doesn't matter much as long as you're getting capture that spread. That's really all that matters. Great question.
Yep, Morgan. The tolerance and weight those are trading engine concepts. Those are concepts that Aqueduct itself doesn't know anything about. Aqueduct just knows about creating orders, canceling orders, and you're in charge of, managing that. So the trading engine is kind of a second layer solution that manages that, the keeping an open position. So that's unique to the dashboard and the software.
Okay, so we are now at 5 o'clock. So I will encourage everybody to join the Slack channel. I posted an invite a little bit higher up in the chat here, but I'll do it again, just so that everyone has an opportunity to join our Slack and ask any questions you might have. And there is a market maker channel there. There's the invite. And let's continue the discussion over there.
Yeah, definitely. I see Garnett's comment on security token safe harbor requirement. So that's a pretty juicy question. Things like that, I think you guys should come into our Slack, and we're excited to talk about all of those things.
You're going to be hearing a lot from us on security tokens in the very near future, but we're not quite ready to make any announcements there yet. But there's a lot coming. All right. Thank you, everybody. It's great having you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Take care.